And welcome everyone to the stream. I'm Amos Joseph here, joined by the crew that I usually hang out with over at Sarcasm and Liberty's page. We've got Mike here, the Liberty Ginger, and Tim, the Paleo Libertarian. Josh with Sarcasm and Liberty's got some stuff going on, so he's basically kind of said it's cool to continue the stream since we got a lot of stuff we want to talk about over here on my channel. So basically we're just going to be talking about, it's nice how it tied together. We're going to talk about Trump and him canceling on the Eagles and their visit to the White House because of their Super Bowl win, kind of how that ties into the Supreme Court ruling regarding the gay wedding cake bakery incident thing, I guess. So I guess basically, yeah, the Supreme Court was ruling. We'll start with the Supreme Court one because that one's kind of the hot one right now. Basically, the Supreme Court ruled, what was it, 7-2?
Yeah, 7-2.
7-2 ruling in favor of the baker that was refusing to make a basic gay wedding cake. Well, wedding cake for a gay wedding. And yeah, that's causing quite a stir. There's a lot of between good for, private citizens being able to make their decisions versus people that are that think it is validating discrimination, I guess. Because, because the baker's labor and goods and services are our entitlement to anyone, because yeah. So I guess I don't know. I'm gonna get your thoughts on this. Chris, by the way, Chris from Think Liberty is actually going to be joining us. I just sent him the link. He just got home from work, so he'll be hopping in here abruptly, probably. But I want to get Mike. What's your thoughts on it? I guess your initial thoughts on the whole thing.
I'm not entirely happy with how they came to their decision today. If you look at Justice Kennedy's opinion, he kind of framed it around, they made this decision today because of how hostile this Colorado Civil Rights Commission acted towards this baker. And I mean, if you go through and read like the case that they presented to not just the Supreme Court, but to the state court as well, they basically look like virtue signaling social justice warriors, talking about how religion has been used to justify slavery, has been used to justify the Holocaust, and they're trying to compare that to this one man, being true to his religious belief and not participating in a same-sex wedding. And
I mean, wasn't there some claim that people were saying he's likened to a Nazi too? Which there was a whole video I saw on that, how he was likened to a Nazi, and then the report was they shot a footage of him going to a military cemetery to see his father or his grandfather who actually fought the Nazis, which was pretty funny.
Interesting.
I mean, it was the whole SJW Nazi spiel that they were throwing out there, oh, you're denying gay people a wedding cake, you're a Nazi. And it's my family fought Nazis. But no, continue there.
I mean, I'm just not entirely happy with that decision. I mean, I feel like they really could have shut the door on this completely, but I feel like they left it open because the decision today wasn't so much about freedom of speech or freedom of religion or personal property rights, but really it was more about, let's protect this man from this hostile group instead. And I just feel like there really wasn't any kind of precedent set, and we're going to visit this issue again in the future.
Right.
And who knows how that ruling is going to go.
So you think then the big issue with it is the ruling is fine. It's just everything they use to come to that ruling is ridiculous. And just real quick here, Chris, welcome to the stream. Everyone that's watching, this is Chris from Think Liberty. He just joined us.
Good to be here.
Yeah, we're just we're basically just going around and sharing initial thoughts on the Supreme Court ruling, just thoughts on it. You know, agree with it, and you know, you kind of heard what Mike was saying. Agrees with the ruling, but doesn't like how it all kind of came to be. So,
right. Yeah.
But we'll go to Tim next. What are your initial thoughts on it?
Well, my initial thought is that I'm glad that it came down this way, because forcing someone into a contract, which is basically what it is just completely unacceptable. And I think that part of why they came to this decision when I read it was that they still had to respect the Baker's First Amendment rights in this, so that those rights were just as important as the right of, you know, this gay couple that wanted a cake made. I look at it with this perspective also, is that what they left out of this was the simple fact that no one should be forced into a contract to do work for anyone else, regardless of what their belief is. Because, once again, they could have bought anything in his shop that was already pre-made. What they were asking for was to enter into a contract for him to do specific work for them. And that would have been a separate contract, and he would have been forced into that. Now, if you look at this one step down the road, and you look at people that are in this Medicare for All movement, then if you apply this to healthcare, then the Medicare for All and the one payer system essentially forces healthcare providers into caring for patients. In some instances, you know, there are patients that you just don't want to take care of for one reason or another. And so that would kind of force anyone at any time to get into a contract with anyone just because they walk up to you and say, all right, you know, Amos, I'm going to pay you $5 to rub my feet. So you can't discriminate against me because I only want half Asian people to rub my feet, and you fit that bill. So here's $5 and here's my foot.
I mean,
oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, that's, you know, I'm kink shaming you if I deny you that.
Well, there you go.
I mean, how far does it go, really, though? Like,
well, yeah, see, that's my whole point, is that, you know, I could walk into, you know, let's say that I walk into the local Jewish community center and say, well, you know, I'm wearing a swastika t-shirt today, and you have to let me in because your door is not locked, and you do things for other people. I mean, that's the precedent that should have been set, is that you can't force people into a contract. They just made this into like a religious liberty statement, and I think that's where they went wrong with it.
If I can jump in here kind of with my comments, because
yours
really kind of go along with my line of thinking too, is that you are entering into a business arrangement, and the narrative that was projected by the media, like when it initially happened, is that, oh no, it's his religious freedom. Well, it's also, you know, the freedom of, you know, being able to run his business the way that he sees fit, regardless of the reason why.
Oh my God.
Whoop.
I didn't think what I said was that funny, but
no, Mike
is now.
Mike's got his phone on there, so.
Oh, okay. No, but regardless of the reason why, like, take another example that's very similar. In October of last year, there was several anti-abortion activists that were actually kicked out of a coffee shop by their gay owner. And I think, you know, like the media wanted to say that he was openly gay, kind of in contrast to this story that happened. But it was very quite cut and dry. He said that the leaflets that they were passing out were offensive to him, and he didn't want it in his establishment, and he asked them to leave. And then there's a viral video that went around of him telling them to leave, and it was extremely intense and quite vulgar. and the language that he used. But at the same time, it was pretty much said that, like, well, this is his business, and he didn't want people passing out stuff there. He didn't want to serve people that held that belief. But that being said, aren't these situations quite similar, where you have a business owner that doesn't agree with gay marriage, and so he's not going to make a gay wedding cake, and so it gets into where this isn't necessarily religious freedom at all, because public perception of it is that it is a right of a business owner, and also there's philosophical backings for that too. And also legal precedent. And even in the New York Times article, there was a couple justices that didn't agree with the decisions that they were being, that like the either or, it's like either religious freedom or it's not. And they didn't feel that that was like the crux of the issue. So it was hard for them to rule on. So yeah, that's kind of my perspective on it, is that whether these people were Christian or not, let's say someone came into your bake shop and asked you to make a cake that you didn't have the skill to make. If you're being forced to enter this business arrangement, then that means that you're just going to try your hardest and you're going to make the cake bad because you don't have the skill to do it or the tools to do it. So, and does this apply to other things? Like, what about mechanics or, more technical, not artistic jobs that could potentially harm people's lives if you do it wrong? So that's something to take into consideration.
Yeah, I also look at it like this, is that by forcing everyone to accept everything, then you'll never know the true nature of people. And so you'll be doing business with people you probably don't want to do business with in the first place because they're forced into it. I would rather have someone just blatantly come out and say that they're racist or that they're bigoted or that they're homophobic or whatever, and then I can make an informed decision whether I want to spend my money at their business or not.
And along with that, we live in such an age where people are quite intolerant of racism, of bigotry and of some sorts, or extreme negligence and waste towards the environment, that if you found out a company was doing that, then people put them on blast on social media and it goes everywhere like that, and then their business hurts. Remember the whole thing a couple years ago with how Walmart operated and like how employees were treated and stuff, and they took a hit from that. And so that's definitely the free market doing what it does best, and people voting with their dollar, basically.
Exactly. And in that instance, you don't need a law involved. You don't need a Supreme Court decision. You just have informed consumers who will ultimately be the best indicator of whether they're going to put up with that or not. I mean, go back a few years even more. If you remember the incident at Denny's, where they wouldn't seat a party of black people that showed up. And so all of a sudden, every Denny's restaurant was considered racist. And I think Denny's lost like millions of dollars in business. And I don't think they fully recovered since then. And that's because the perception was, okay, here's a racist establishment and I'm not going to go there anymore. So all you need is just, I hate to say it like this, but if everybody were just honest, the world would work out a lot better. What? And that means that even if you're honest about being a douchebag, then let people know that you're a douchebag. So either you're just going to die because you're poor, or you're going to have to change your perspective and change your ways. So
at least for the sake of your business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are you saying poor people should die?
That's not what I'm saying.
You hate poor people. Yeah, like
we're going into radical ANCAP land here.
Was that the trigger?
That was the trigger. Radical ANCAP land.
Everybody who is looking for a single shred of Ayn Rand's philosophy so they can make fun of us just went and now they're just typing on the computer furiously.
Here's the thing, though. I've had somebody on Twitter tell me, "Oh, you must be rich because you're against taxes." I'm like, dude, I just want to keep my own money. And
I'm not rich because there's taxes. Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and those of you that were on the stream when I talked about it before, I had to start working when I was 10 years old to buy groceries. Poor is something that I aspired to be when I was a kid. You know, if I were just poor, I would have been happy.
Yeah, I think you know, I've kind of been in that situation too a little bit later in my life though, when, you know, going through college and pretty much trying to like pay my way through it and eating like ramen consistently, and yeah, it sucks. It really does suck.
Right.
Yeah, I remember when I couldn't afford ramen. I had government cheese.
In a van down by the river?
No, seriously, we had the damn government cheese. You have no idea how bad that stuff was.
It's pretty bad.
It came in a brick, it was like a brick in a brown box. And I remember thinking, I think the box might taste better.
It's like congealed vegetable oil or something.
Oh, horrible. And we were poor enough. We also got the government. What was it? The government dehydrated milk that came with it.
Oh, the powdered milk.
The powdered milk, yes.
Yeah.
It came in a white box that just said powdered milk on it.
I was watching a documentary like from years ago that aired around the time of World War II, how they were talking about like changing the military's rations and like how they were developing like how these independent companies were like developing like new ways to like get, you know, your vitamins and get and get dairy in your diet and stuff like that. And it's basically all of that, like, you know, government cheese and like dehydrated milk and Tang and stuff like that, you know. And I was just like, gosh, this is the worst thing to come out of World War II. Like, we defeated Nazism, but holy crap, why did this have to exist?
We have food for the welfare state.
Like, we were doing things with food that we've reached levels of food autism that we didn't think were possible.
It wasn't food, man. Those were chemicals that we pretended to be food.
Yeah.
We're eating damn science experiments.
So I was looking on here, you know, of course, looking at the best news site in the world, CNN.com, looking at how they actually have a CNN Supreme Court reporter, which is kind of funny. Anyways, Supreme Court rules Colorado
364 days out of the year.
Let me do a quick little screen share here to show you.
I want that job.
So I'm gonna do. Let's see here. Here we go. So if you guys can see that, you know, I mean, you know, call me crazy, but that is a very interesting picture to be taking of this guy. Like, like, really, guys. Like,
I see where they're going with that.
You're not subtle.
Yeah, I see where they're going with that.
I mean, you know, here he is smiling. It's all white people in this picture. He's got his hand up at that angle.
Yes, yeah, he's doing that. He's doing that thing.
He's doing that thing.
That's the Roman salute. And before World War II, that's how people in this country saluted the flag.
Yes, it's called the Roman salute. It was called the Roman salute. Yeah,
it used to be called the Roman salute. But then the Nazis bastardized it, and now we can't do that anymore.
So we were talking a little bit about how people were calling him like a Nazi and stuff, when in fact his family history shows that like they fought Nazis. But it's funny here. So it says Jack serves all customers. He simply declines to express messages or celebrate events that violate his deeply held beliefs. So he serves people. Like, if you go in and you're gay, you're black, you're whatever, you buy a cake.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he told that couple, he said that, you know, I will sell you, you know, birthday cakes, I'll sell you cookies and brownies that I make in my shop. It's not going to make this one cake for you that you want me to make. I mean, I don't.
Well, yeah, and it even says they even go on, yeah. Creative professionals who serve all people should be free to create art consistent with their convictions without the threat of government punishment. One of the things that's interesting is during the, what is it? I think I've heard like during the Cold War, well, not even during the Cold War, just in communist Russia, like big name artists were forced to paint art that was for, basically reflected the propaganda that they were trying to spread. And denying that, there were artists who would like basically in secret paint paintings that had hidden messages that the government wasn't, not so creative communists couldn't tell, but they actually had hidden messages, like not subliminal messaging, but subliminal sort of very subtle ways of showing like defiance to the communist regime in their painting. So you had those, and it's funny, like we see, this evil taking place, and they're literally making creative people, creative professionals, forcing them to produce something that is against their beliefs. And we would say, oh yeah, for sure. Like you hear these SJWs they'll point to all this evil in the past, and you show them examples how in every sphere, how all this evil was perpetuated. And then now you come back to now, it's like, no, but you need to make me a wedding cake. You need to.
There was even a lot of that around the times of like the Renaissance era, where like paint, like art and stuff, like what you described, how there was certain artists that actually put subliminal messaging in their art that was like counter to like the Catholic Church and stuff like that. And it became insanely popular. Like one of the famous ones was it's the painting of, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's the painting that looks like it's a silver ball, and it's like the reflection of the people looking at it. And that was supposed to be like a kind of a subliminal messaging of like you need to like look at yourself, like you need to be introspective, you need to like hope comes from within, that kind of thing. So
self-awareness, stuff like that.
Yeah, so self-awareness, kind of more of a humanist, or what would be called a humanist perspective back then.
But see, that's okay though, because it's against like Christians, against the church, so it's okay.
Well, it wasn't okay back then. That's
well,
sure.
I mean, but you get what I'm throwing in there. Like,
yeah, it's a different narrative though, because the thing is, like the power of the state was derived and connected with the power of the church at the time, and then that was kind of eventually changed to academia, where like the academics became the propagandists of the state eventually, which is what we see in most of the Western world now. So
it's funny how it used to be one religion ran the state, and now it comes across as society sort of demonizes one religion over others. Kind of,
one thing that I find interesting, and I really don't get why this always plays out the way that it does, but whenever they talk about, any kind of like discrimination, they always frame it around hate. It's like, like in this case, this guy is a hateful bigot who, hates LGBT rights. So we're going to force him to do this for us, and we're going to give him our money, and we're going to get our product, and then we're going to be happy. If you know that someone hates you that much, or even if you just think that someone hates you that much, why would you give them your money?
Why would you want someone that you hate to make you food?
Yeah.
Does anyone know anything about fast food and restaurants?
Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
Yeah.
There you go.
You never piss off the people who prepare your food. You never show any sign that you hate them, that you disagree with them. You just be as cordial as, I mean, now not to like come across as like a threat from, restaurant workers across the country, but it's like, this is just stuff we know. Like, you don't want to piss off people who handle your food.
You have everything to gain in a restaurant by being nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everything to gain, because that's the difference between them throwing in like some extra fries on your plate, or, actually paying attention to how they cook their steak or whatever. But if you're an ass, then they're just going to be like, oh, whatever. This guy wanted a medium rare. Well, he's going to get it like whatever.
They're probably even more willing to accommodate you. Like, let's say you're super, super nice, and like I've noticed this. So let's say, like, for example, like two individuals walk into a McDonald's, we'll say, and one guy's nice, and his food was late. The management is actually going to be more willing to like give him a little extra, like, oh, here's an apple pie, and then send him off. The guy who's going to be a dick, they're going to be late still, but they might actually take more time and not give you anything and just say sorry and let you go. Like, so there's just these unspoken things within the food industry that I've known about that, like, like I said, everything they gain.
I can't tell you how much free stuff my wife and I get, because we're like super nice to workers that live off of tips, because I've had to live off tips in the past, and we always tip extremely well wherever we go. So we always get, but I would say we always get better than average service, and I've probably gotten more free food in my life than anyone else I've ever known.
But how can you call yourself a libertarian and hate socialism, but you talk about free stuff?
Because it was given to me freely. No one was forced to give it to me. And not only that, but, giving something freely and pretending it's free when you take my taxes in order to pay for it are two different things.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just...
But, the other half of my point, too, not just, you don't want to make someone upset who makes your food for you, but at the same time, like, if I go somewhere and try to buy something from someone, but they tell me that they hate me for whatever reason, you don't deserve my money. Like, if I walk into a restaurant that Tim owns and I walk in and ask for a burger, and he says, I'm not going to serve you because you're a ginger and I hate gingers.
You have no soul.
My cash. No. You don't deserve my money.
Steal souls from people, Mike. You are to be despised in society. I won't. No, we won't.
I think
what I think is hilarious about the whole. Go ahead.
That's horrible.
What I think is hilarious about the whole ginger stereotype is like, the stereotype of like Irishmen and stuff is like everybody's railing, like people rail against like, oh, you can't make like that caricature of an African American or a black person, that's racist, you can't do that. And then like once it comes like the Notre Dame mascot or everything else, like that's like a freaking ginger caricature, they like drink, like gets drunk all the time, spends way too much money, wears like rags clothes. Every Irish person, every ginger looks at that and goes, yep. Yep, that's the way it is. We like whiskey. What can I say? So,
hashtag bring back racist mascots.
No, Notre Dame's just like the heck with you. Irish people be like that. Just like...
Imagine a world where you could have racist mascots. What kind of mascots would you have? What kind of schools would you have? I mean,
I totally have a HAPA mascot.
I have a twisted mind.
No, I mean, would you have like...
Let's not go down that road. let's just not.
We'll keep that off stream. I just had one pop in my mind, and once you said let's not, I'm like, yeah.
But think about it this way: like if you had a school that had a racist mascot, it kind of gets back to the topic we're talking about. So if you had a school in your town that has a racist mascot, and then there's another one that doesn't have a racist mascot, they have like the Tigers or something, then you probably more likely to send your kid to the one that doesn't have a racist mascot if you really, really care about that. And
so you would have very different people coming out of those schools and graduating.
So what you're saying is that if I wanted to send my kid to dentistry school and they had an English mascot, I shouldn't do that?
An English mascot?
An English mascot?
Like they're like a red coat or something? Like
no, nowadays it'd be like a caricature of Tommy Robinson in cuffs.
They could have like a Canadian mascot, and they would just they would have an apology class.
No. It would have to be like a very flamboyant and colorful looking Justin Trudeau caricature. The Toronto Gay Canadians.
Wow.
White people are not funny.
See,
we would say Canadians, we would apologize for this, but you're probably going to apologize to each other enough for it, so it'll be okay.
Anyways, Mike brought up a little thing. What was the term? Public accommodation?
Yeah. If you read the syllabus from the case today, they talk about how Colorado's law was set up so that you can't discriminate, as far as public accommodations. And so, I was asking you earlier, I said, what makes a public accommodation, and is a private business considered a public accommodation? And if it is, why?
I mean, I guess a public accommodation it would just have to come from a public entity, I'd say. Right? Or am I misunderstanding that?
I mean,
I don't know. Is that any business that's open to the public?
Sorry,
here we go. Okay. Here we go. Public accommodations in U.S. law are generally defined as facilities, both public and private, used by the public.
So that's any business, basically.
Yeah, so any
facilities,
business.
though. So like a venue.
Retail stores, rental establishments, service establishments, educational institutions, recreational facilities, and service centers.
So, if you run a business that does not have a physical location, let's say I run an internet business, and no one patronizes my house, comes into my house, and I have a post office box that I rent out for the usage of my business, just so long as nobody is in my post office box, which is impossible, then then I can refuse or deny service for any reason and shirk that law.
Like if you were some sort of a online T-shirt designer.
Yeah, something.
Someone was like, "Hey, I want
data manager, social media manager."
Right.
Yeah.
And someone wants to solicit your services.
What about like a lawn care service?
There you go. That's another one, because you don't have a physical location in which you operate your business out of, and as long as it's one person.
Or a pool cleaner.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, that brings me into a discussion my wife and I had over the weekend. Actually, it was last weekend. We had to go to Costco. And if you've ever been to Costco, you'll notice that in the front of their store, they have like 50 handicap parking spaces.
Yeah.
And so I said to her, what if we got rid of this law that requires a certain number of handicap parking spaces? How many businesses would just decide we don't want to put any handicap parking spaces in front of our establishment? And would they lose any business by doing that?
There would probably be quite a few, especially ones that someone like handicapped people wouldn't necessarily go to.
What is the law on that? Is it strictly a number or a distance thing or a size thing?
It's a number.
I think it depends from state to state.
But I mean, overall, is it mainly just a number of spots?
Yeah, here where I live, it's a number of spots per the store capacity.
I mean, what if you had like a parking ramp and like a parking garage, and you put like all the handicap spots at the very top floor with no elevator going to it?
Well, I'm actually looking at the
would that be illegal?
Yeah, I'm actually looking for the American with Disabilities Act rules right now, and that's one of the things, is that it has to be accessible.
I was gonna say, but then you put like a sidewalk on the side of the ramp, so like they're rolling down.
Well, here's the thing. is that it says accessible, but it doesn't say convenient.
Yes.
We are literally trying to figure out loopholes in laws here.
Because they're stupid laws.
Here, so it's based on the number of parking spaces in the lot. So if you have 1 to 25 parking spaces, you actually don't need one. So
like a gas.
no, you need one, and it needs to be van accessible.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a minimum of 1.
So if you like the Costco parking lot's freaking massive, so that's
Right.
probably around like what 101 to 150 parking spaces. So that is you need to have 4 standard car accessible parking spaces, and then 1 van accessible. So you need to have a minimum of 5.
Now the funny thing is that Costco by where I live, the handicap accessible parking spaces are all right in front of the store. They're lined up in front of the building. But if you park down any one of the aisles that's directly in front of the entrance, those parking spaces are actually closer to the front door than the last spaces at the end of the row of handicap parking spaces. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I also find it kind of interesting too is that when I see people that are parking in these handicap spots, the ones that don't have any physical disability that keeps them from walking, those are the ones that I find the most interesting. Why they have a handicap placard? Because I knew a guy that was colorblind and he got a handicap placard. Like, dude, you can still walk. Why the hell are you taking the first spot?
I'm telling you, man, it's those lines in the parking spaces. You know, they all kind of blur together when you're colorblind. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, here's a perfect example of like how many places would actually have handicap parking spaces. If you go to some businesses, they'll actually have a space for pregnant women.
Yeah, Best Buy has that.
Or they'll have a space for they'll have a literal like veterans space. Like this is for like, you know, military personnel and like I call it the status space sometimes, but it's like for military veterans, police, firefighters, you know, public servants, and so they don't have to do that, but they do, and because it makes their business look better to most people, and you know, it's a nice gesture, and you know, things like that. So you could definitely assume, and that, like, I know in the Midwest that's pretty common for like a grocery store or something like that to have it. So you could almost assume that all of those would also have handicap parking spaces, like without being asked by the government to do so or forced.
Yeah, the whole thing with handicap spaces that I've seen too. I mean, I saw someone. She got into her car, so she was in the van. Gets in her van, puts her little placard, takes her placard off, lights up a cigarette, puts her seatbelt on, but like the shoulder, the actual one that comes on the shoulder, she tucks under her arm. I'm like, you might not look like you deserve to be there, but you're asking for you're putting yourself in a position to be there for sure.
Well, seatbelt laws are dumb too, so and speed limits and. Yeah, well, let's just go down the list. We're going to be here a while, guys. Pull up a chair. pull up a chair. Pour yourself a drink.
Yeah. Speed limits, seatbelts, driver's licenses.
Yeah, see, that's the one thing, though, is that I agree that you should have a driver's license. I think that is actually a good idea. I think most traffic laws, if not 99% of traffic laws, are just completely unnecessary. But I think that there should be a required test in order to be on the road.
Do you think that if, like, for example, let's take a kind of a hypothetical but realistic in relation to this subject, if the state did not require driver's licenses or driver testing, do you think insurance companies would?
Well, if the state doesn't require it, then who is issuing it?
The insurance company.
So you would have to get your license from the insurance company.
Well, yeah, sure, why not?
But then would you have state required insurance in order to drive?
No, you wouldn't.
I mean, insurance wasn't invented for the state. It was invented to
It's
save
required
money.
by the state, though.
It is. It is. No, it is. But I mean, I'm saying the foundation, insurance wasn't created simply because of the state.
Well, then, honestly, you would probably have more people driving without insurance than people driving with it at that point.
Yeah, and then in which you could file civil suit against them if you got in a wreck with them.
Yeah, but I live in South Florida, so we have quite a few uninsured and unlicensed drivers down here anyway.
Even though it's required by the state to do so?
Even though what happens is that in some of these homes where these people live, and I'm not exaggerating, 14 people in a 3-bedroom home where one person is technically legal and they have the car registered in their name and other people are driving their car.
So Donald Trump was the talking. I'm just kidding.
No.
No, we're getting the. I mean, I definitely want you guys.
We're kind of getting down the rabbit hole on this.
Yeah, we're going into some Ancapistan topics, and
yeah,
as much as I enjoy those, we were basically kind of talking about like what private individuals are allowed to do, like with their business. So like the decision of the gay bakery thing, but then how that ties into, and interesting enough, how it's going to tie into Donald Trump's decision to cancel meeting the Eagles at the White House and his whole thing with the anthem and stuff. Does he have, is it okay for him being a public servant acting in that way, making a decision? Because it's the different sides of this. It's you have the individual who can do whatever they want and run their business how they want, but can a public individual in office make statements, and make decisions? Because the whole visiting the White House isn't necessarily a policy thing. It's just been a tradition, and he just decided not to honor it.
Well, yeah. See, that's the thing, is that he's not denying them any service, and he's not denying them, and he's not infringing on their rights in any way, shape, or form.
Because he's not really required. It's just a tradition
exactly.
They had.
Exactly. What he is doing is he's breaking from tradition. But he's also broken from tradition on other things too. And I think that as long as someone that's in the public sector is doing a government job, if they're not denying service or denying the right of someone to a public service, then they have to conform with whatever it is the law states that they have to, they have to provide. Whereas if this were a private business, then you can do whatever the hell you want. It's your own business.
But I mean, is there anything that can be said about how far is he allowed to go without actually enacting policy?
Well,
regarding the NFL, the anthems, how is that connected with the administration? He's breaking tradition, fine. But then he's making statements. He's trying to claim that the whole NFL anthem penalty thing was his thing. And what I find interesting is we're talking about all this when technically he never signed anything into anything.
Correct.
He's not changed any laws. He's not signed any executive orders. He just made statements, which he's entitled to, but at the same time,
he shouldn't have any kind of influence.
But yeah, it's
but just being in the office gives him influence.
Yes.
Right, which I get that. So is there something is his influence not allowed to be thrown around?
Well, see, there's the unwritten policy that the president should be exemplifying the American values that we're all supposed to have, and supposed to be, neutral when it comes to any business ventures. But it's never been that way. And, you know, we end up with the president with the bully pulpit and creating crony capitalism. And, you know, he has tweeted out endorsements for different companies and different businesses. And that in itself is, in the way I look at it, I think that should be considered an abuse of power. Because using his position in order to enrich others by virtue of his or his condemnation, which he shouldn't be doing.
I agree. Like, whenever he says that people who don't stand for the anthem should be required to leave the country, he should not be allowed to say stuff like that. That is, I mean, for one thing, it's extremely divisive, and two, when the leader of your country is telling you that you shouldn't be here just because you don't want to stand for the national anthem, that is, I think it's dangerous.
Well, I think it's also dangerous to restrict public officials on what they can say about certain matters.
That's what I was thinking too, is so when you're a public official, does your freedom of speech become restricted? Well, is it more so an unwritten courtesy, just that you stay neutral on certain issues when it comes to culture and society, you know, except if you're actually enacting policy? Or like, if you actually sign something into law to say, like, if you don't stand at the anthem, you're getting deported?
Well, see, there's a difference between offering your opinion and actually endorsing or condemning a product.
Yes. And
Trump has not just offered as an opinion, but he's also condemned and endorsed products. There's a huge difference there. As a public official, you should not be in a position to endorse or condemn products, because at that point you're playing favorites and choosing winners and losers with businesses. Because you know that regardless of how,
but the government can give subsidies in which they do that for real, right?
Well, in a way, it is. I mean, if you think about it, there was this thing when, you know, Oprah Winfrey had her show. They called it the Oprah effect. Anytime Oprah would recommend a book for her book club, the sales would skyrocket. When Oprah did her favorite things list every year on her show, basically endorsing products made these people millionaires. And now you have the Trump effect, where he will endorse a product or he will condemn something, and immediately it has an impact financially on those companies and those people. And
anyone who is endorsed by Trump business-wise instantly becomes some sort of Nazi sympathizer. If he said he likes McDonald's tomorrow, McDonald's will be painted with swastikas.
So on a little tangent here, have you guys heard about the Trump challenge?
No.
Okay, so apparently, like, on his campaign tour, they stopped at McDonald's and they ordered like 2 McChickens, a McDouble, and like a large fry. And so, but apparently it was like only him or something. Like, the rumor is that it was like only him on it, so that he ate all that by himself. And so the Trump challenge is you have to eat 2 McChickens, a McDouble, and a large fry.
That's not. I mean, it's a lot of food.
That's a lot of food.
I could.
That's a lot of food.
I could probably eat it.
I could not do that. No, not only that, but I mean, I would feel sick.
There was different variants of it too. Like, you have to eat like a KFC like 5-piece or whatever with like a fork and knife, because like he was.
What is it?
Because he was seen like with a fork and knife getting ready to eat KFC.
I remember seeing an entire segment on that once.
There was another thing too. He drinks 12 Diet Cokes a day.
Entire 12-pack of Diet Coke a day.
Yeah.
I don't know how this guy walks around, man.
No.
I mean,
it's because he's got dragon energy, that's why.
Dragon energy.
Him and Kanye, man.
God.
Freaking Donald Trump's got Diet Coke. Kanye's probably got a couple drugs in his system. I mean, it's all good. It's
just to quickly touch on that.
Well, you figure if the Oompa Loompas can live off candy, the world's largest Oompa Loompa can live off Diet Coke.
Yeah, and the Smurfs will live off Smurf berries too if Gargamel stops taking them. Sorry.
So you got, I think a couple of you got, Tim, are you not to ask you your actual Facebook, but are you on Facebook?
No, I don't do Facebook.
Okay. Well, for those of you who are on Facebook, there's, for people who like follow like sort of the intellectual dark web, we'll call it that, what's been popularized now, there are Facebook groups that are basically like I guess like-minded thinkers, people who follow these. Like I think I've talked to Chris a little bit about this. There's these Facebook groups that have like thousands of members, and it started, I think, with like there is like Jordan Peterson has groups called the Jordan Peterson Party Boat. There's a lot of these party boat groups. There's a Sam Harris Party Boat. There's a Jordan Peterson Party Boat. Well, I've come across these, been invited to join them, look through them and stuff. It's just basically a lot of people who follow these thinkers, and they'll not only kind of share like their thoughts on things, but also it's just kind of like a community that they build, just hanging out and stuff. But it's funny because immediately following the whole Kanye Trump thing, there was the Trump Kanye Dragon Energy Party Boat that it was immediately created and filled up to thousands like the day of, that I heard about, and it was just hilarious. It's just anything, basically the intellectual dark web kind of just like, I don't know, shut off path a bit, and because they have a lot of these like random groups. They'll not only have like party boats, but there'd be like the Jordan Peterson Party Boat gun barracks. Like this just random like fictional places that are
That's odd. There,
Wow.
right when that Dragon Energy came out, I was having a conversation with one of my friends who's also into like politics and things like that, and I was like, we needed to market this. We need to make like an actual Dragon Energy drink, and like market the hell out of this, and then it'd be like make caffeine highs great again. And like there's this like a whole bunch of like hashtags and everything.
You need to somehow someone needs to like take like that Kanye's eyes, like the way his eyes are like how they're shaped, and like somehow incorporate that with like a letter D that's on fire. Dragon Energy.
What the heck?
That'll be the logo, because immediately I was thinking, what's the logo gonna look like?
I was just thinking of putting like the Mad Max car with all the speakers on it and having like Kanye rapping on that thing, and then have the car in the front like Trump standing on the hood like all triumphantly and stuff. Like all that's on the can, and it just
Okay.
I just want my power company to change their name to Dragon Energy.
So,
what's in your house? Dragon Energy.
Oh, hey man, I haven't seen you in a long time. Would you like something to drink? I have some soda, I have some water, I have some tea, I have some Dragon Energy. It's like, I'll just take water. Okay, soy boy. What'd you say? What? That's the commercial right there.
For once, internet culture on mainstream TV did not become cringeworthy. Like,
yeah, like what was up with that Tide Super Bowl commercial? They had so much potential for freaking Tide Pods, and they did cash in on it. Like,
I think they did like one commercial, but it wasn't the Super Bowl one. They did one like before the Super Bowl.
Oh.
There was like a few weeks. So when it first started, they immediately put out a commercial like, we don't eat these. But then it was like the Super Bowl. It's like the Super Bowl tends to have commercials with companies that are really pushing for like what's happened this year, some current event. And Tide Pod just didn't even do it. And then just no.
Gosh.
introducing Tide Pod candies. Like,
They
just
actually
double
come in
down
the same bag. Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know how we got onto Dragon Energy, but
We don't get on it; it just flows through us.
But I guess what would Trump being who he is, saying what he says, because on one hand, I like the I don't like him. I like just the I guess the energy, the I don't care, the
Well, let me ask
the
you this
way.
before you go any further. Are you in the same camp as like Ben Shapiro, where he does his good Trump, bad Trump?
I tend to agree with that approach. I'm not but I mean, I listen to Ben Shapiro, but there's obvious holes in some of the way he presents things that I don't agree with.
Right.
I saw someone criticize how the conservatives and Republicans kind of jump back and forth between the idea of how the left tends to praise celebrities and their political virtue signaling, and then Kanye comes around and they do the same thing. It's like,
well, yeah, they've done it with Kanye, they've done it with Roseanne. Now they're even doing it with Kim Kardashian.
Right, and it's like
things in there too.
It's like at least just don't do. So that's where I'm like, no, don't do that. But yeah, there are things that Trump has done that have affected me that I like, and there are things that I think Trump does just to be Trump, and I think some is hilarious, some is stupid, some is crazy, some is okay. So I think that's how you should approach every president. I've yet to really remember anything that Obama really did that helped me. That would help a person like me. I don't think my healthcare got any better under Obama. But continue with what I guess what are you trying to figure with the Shapiro good Trump bad Trump?
Well, because I think he has the right idea with that, is that you don't look at him as a whole and be like a never Trumper or be part of the MAGA group. And you look at each individual policy, executive order, each thing that he does and judge it on whatever that thing is. For instance, I like the tax cuts. There should be more of them, but the tariffs are retarded.
Yep.
Because in the MAGA crowd, which I call the Church of Trump, the church, they love the tax cuts, but then they're praising the tariffs, not understanding that tariffs are taxes.
Counterproductive.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
so, no, that's why. See, just because they both start with the letter T doesn't mean they're the same thing.
Somebody passed third grade English, guys. He is on to something.
I wasn't even here in the States in third grade, so.
But the place in which you were in, there was the equivalent of the third grade, correct?
Yeah, third grade Chinese.
Yeah, okay. I bet that starts with a T too, so it's cool.
Chinese starts with a C.
But what's taxes in Chinese, Amos?
Taxes in Chinese is a completely different thing.
Oh yeah, because
Anyways,
I think
so. So continue, Tim.
So anyway, then if you look at the deregulation, that's a good thing. Bombing Syria was a ridiculous thing. If you look at individual instances on what he does, which is the way that I look at it, there is some good, there is some bad. So, and I think that we're almost to a point. I think sometime this year, relatively soon, Trump's going to peak, and then you're going to see some downward spiraling, because there's not a whole lot more that he can do that will be as effective as what he's done so far and be positive. And I think that the MAGA crowd is going to kind of get tired of him not doing things. I think that's why he's on Twitter nonstop. I think that's why he keeps doing these rallies, because he's trying to keep them energized and keep them on track with him. And I think after this midterm election, then he's just going to be in full campaign mode for 2 years.
Well, we almost kind of saw, at least I kind of saw it, that something like that happened, where the beginning of possibly a downward spiral when the omnibus spending bill was passed, because there was a lot of people that I knew that were diehard, like Trump, like, you know, Church of Trump, as you describe it, people that were like, this is the dumbest thing like ever that could have happened. And even Rush Limbaugh was like railed against it for like 3 solid hours in like one of his radio broadcasts, which is kind of interesting. But the thing is, some, you know, they got like hooked back somehow. So it's like what you're saying, like with the rallies and stuff, it's almost like it's like maintenance of like the culture.
Right. And I think part of that is forget that I signed the omnibus, because now they've been talking about him, you know, well, it's not an official budget.
Oh,
so,
yeah, that's
so yeah, we're not going to fund Planned Parenthood, and we're gonna cut $600 million off of that. Doesn't change the fact that you've already added $1 trillion to the debt since you've been in office, and it doesn't change the fact that, you know, you're spending more money on the military in ridiculous amounts. And this is something that I've talked to people about and I've tweeted about, is that if you look at the military budget over the past 18 years since the year 2000, we've more than doubled it. So
and that's accounting for the rate of inflation.
Yeah, and that's because our budget now is, what is it, over $700 million per year, and in the year 2000 it was barely at $300 million. So I've had people say, well, the military has been decimated over the last 8 years, and I've had somebody tweeted that at me, and I tweeted back at them, you know, the statistics of what the military budget has been over the past 18 years, and I asked the question, how has it been decimated if at the end of Obama's term it was more than twice what it was 15 years prior? And they can't answer that, because it's a ridiculous amount of money we're spending on that. We have 800 bases around the world, which makes no sense. And then you spend $84 million on missiles you drop in Syria to blow up 3 buildings where you say nobody was in those buildings, which makes no sense at all.
Yep.
So,
but don't you dare kneel during the national anthem, though.
Yeah. Don't do
that's
that.
important.
We fight over the stupidest stuff in this country.
It's bread and circuses. It's literal bread and circuses, guys. Like,
it's all about
it's all
about football players who are
bread is not paleo.
Ungrateful. It's all about racist tweets. It's all about someone dropping the C word on TV. We fight over the dumbest things in this country.
It's all about communists. No. Talking about the Samantha B. feckless C word that she called Ivanka.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely get, like,
which, when that happened, I was like, oh, Samantha B's still a thing.
Exactly.
I just don't care.
I've never watched your show on TV. I've never seen it.
I just don't watch television anymore, really.
I watch these clips and I watch this, and it's like the only good times where they actually have decent TV is when they're talking to their guests. All the other monologuing and news reporting, you know, quote unquote news reporting, is just a bunch of
I don't watch
signaling. It's just it's not even comedy anymore.
I will say Jimmy Fallon's pretty good, though.
He's like probably one of the last ones that's still producing like an actual valuable value.
Because not everything is about Donald Trump. I mean, can they seriously find something else to talk about once in a while and not just, you know, ram anti-Trump stuff down our throats? Like, I already dislike Trump on my own. I don't need someone to tell me to do it. I mean,
yeah, it's almost even more frustrating, like when you're convinced that you're already convinced that you don't like him. You're just kind of like, okay, all right, fine. Like, he did something bad.
Like I can't even watch SNL anymore. Like I used to like watching Saturday Night Live. I can't watch it anymore because it's just Everything's about Donald Trump.
It's like, oh look, we got so into the political commentary that we literally signed on Alec Baldwin to regularly play Trump in our shows. I'm like,
Yeah.
there are whole cartoons and TV shows, definitely not popular, but they're out there. Like networks are actually buying up these kinds of shows to just do Trump stuff. Like
like the Trump cartoon that's on HBO.
Yeah,
Wasn't
there's
that supposed to be kind of a spin-off of Little Bush? Like,
I remember that show.
Yeah,
but
you
I
remember-
mean, even
you
like,
remember Little
but
Bush?
even like-
Yeah. I can't see them doing a Little Obama.
well, they didn't. I mean, but I mean, even Little Bush never got to the point like where the hysteria, the levels of hysteria that we are at right now with Trump derangement syndrome. It's you know.
Yeah, see, I'm still kind of like in the Shapiro camp with this. I don't hate Trump. I don't love Trump.
No, I get that. I'm just saying
I'm not a never Trumper. I'm not a pro Trumper. I'm in the camp of I voted for Gary Johnson because the other two choices were absolutely horrible.
The lesser of three evils.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But honestly, would you rather have a president that is on Twitter at
can't bomb Syria if you can't find it on a map?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
You bomb Syria? iPhone girl?
Cash Me Outside girl? What? No.
So that brings me up to a question I wanted to ask you guys. Who do you think is going to run in 2020?
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
For all three parties?
All three.
I'm really dreading for the Democrats.
I think that after the midterms, you might see a Republican challenger come up against Trump. I think that's a distinct possibility, and I got a couple of ideas who they might be. But I wanted to get your thoughts on if the Democrats can pull something together and put somebody up, and who do you think is going to run?
Well, here's a question for you. Do you think that they would do that if the midterm is heavily in favor of the GOP? I mean, if they keep their supermajority, don't lose any seats, maybe even gain a few seats in both the House and the Senate, do you think that they're going to hold off on that and just let Trump cruise to 2020 and then see what happens in that election? No, because there are some people that are still in the Republican Party that are anti-Trump, and I think that there are some of those may just run against him.
I don't think the GOP will not endorse Donald Trump, and mostly because of the prospect of putting somebody out there and then like losing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To a Democrat.
But who do you think the Democrats are going to put up though?
I don't know. That's a good question. I
think that might determine if there will be a stronger Republican challenger or not in 2020.
See, it's interesting because the Democrats are kind of in a state of change right now too, because you have kind of the old guard kind of going away, and you have a lot of new people coming in.
Oh, I heard someone kind of. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing about the Democrats is like they don't have an actual leader right now. I mean, if you look at, the leadership in the Democrat Party, Nancy Pelosi, who's a freaking dingbat, Chuck Schumer, who's kind of a snake, Elizabeth Warren, who will never shake off that Pocahontas title, Cory Booker, who cries. I mean, who else do they have?
I think Elizabeth Warren will put her hat in the ring.
Yeah.
I think
she won't beat Trump.
I mean,
I don't see how she could.
Would you get that next level virtue signaling and get like a Maxine Waters in there?
Oh, that would be
black and a woman. I mean, like they're gonna double down on identity politics.
Trump in a debate would be comedy gold. That would be amazing.
Like you could seriously double down on identity politics, which I think they probably will. If this derangement, this absolute hysteria over racism, over all the stuff that's going on, to the point that they
I
will
don't see how Maxine Waters could run a coherent campaign, to be
well,
honest.
maybe not even her. I'm just saying is like they're gonna double down on this identity politics. Like, well, we tried a white woman, now let's try a black woman.
Well,
then,
speaking of which, actually looked up this is an article by the Washington Post, but they have like their 20 picks for, and one of them is Oprah Winfrey.
She won't do it.
She won't do it.
She won't run.
Probably won't do it. So
No, she won't run.
Yeah.
She's already said she wouldn't run.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just saw that, but yeah, it would be interesting. That's for sure. You think Bernie will try for it again?
Yes, I think he will.
Yeah.
He's delusional.
And he will have a senior moment on stage.
He's going to be like 80 years old.
Yeah.
He's
They're
old.
actually saying, I think statistically, like
Trump's
once...
71.
Oh, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is another one.
Yeah, Joe Biden is another one.
He's also going to be like 80 in 2020.
Joe Biden, I think, is 74.
Well, he'll be close to 80
or 74. These guys are all in their 70s.
But I mean, the stress that you go through for being president.
Trump is the oldest president we've ever had.
But I'm just saying, the stress plus their age, you're gonna die in office.
Yeah.
Now you're being hopeful.
I just don't know who the Democrats can put up, to be honest with you. I mean, especially like what Chris said, the Democrat Party's going through change. I mean, you have part of the party that's going towards the far left, and you have, so you still have like the that modern liberal sect of the party.
What about that?
You also have California Senator Kamala Harris.
Oh,
Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's something worthy of note is that she's actually like kind of on a tour. She's done tours of a lot of different. She's acting like a candidate, kind of.
Yeah, like I said, they're either they sort of readjust, and the backlash actually kicks in with sort of this overwhelming, push for identity politics and the sexism and the whatever, and they readjust and they have a more viable candidate, someone who's actually like is competent, at least how they determine to be competent, or they play like I said, they double down on their identity politics and they have to have a black woman.
I think eventually they'll probably come around to the fact that identity politics just doesn't work, and that people eventually get sick of identity politics.
But I mean, no. I mean, I'm obviously like society as a whole is tired of it. I'm saying the Democratic Party continues the delusion and doubles down because they've doubled down on a lot.
Yeah, I'm saying that. I think that eventually even the Democrats will come around that strategy just isn't going to work.
Well, in that kind of vein, another person to take note of is former governor of Montana, Steve Bullock, and because he won in a he was a Democrat that won in a red state even during like the Trump time. He was reelected in a red state, and he even has done a couple of visits to different states, including Iowa, in the past couple months. So there's something to be said about like actual like pragmatism with him, but like Amos said, I don't think the DNC will go for that.
Either they're more pragmatic, which I think is unlikely within a term, or they double down. I mean, maybe by 2024 they're gonna have a readjustment, but 2020 I think it's more likely they double down on their identity politics.
I think they double down with a black gay woman who's married to a bisexual who has a lover that's an illegal immigrant.
I'm telling no. See,
what the heck?
It'll have to be it'll have to be like a Hispanic Arab mix trans woman, so it's ambiguous, who's married to a trans man that got pregnant.
And they have like pronouns of like Z and Zim, so you would say like Zimster president.
And they're trans-abled too. They're trans-abled.
Oh my gosh.
With a two-spirit cousin.
Bring it back to kind of, I guess, a little bit closer to reality. Maybe not exactly reality. Let's talk about the Libertarian Party ticket. So right now we have, two people that are thrown their hat in the ring. The one who shall not be named, Bill Weld, and and Adam Kokesh, who is running for unpresident because if he wins,
very interesting.
Weld. So here's my thoughts. Weld is way too establishment, and he's just not even a real libertarian by what I think.
They old.
And Kokesh is way too edgy for his own good.
That's pretty fair
assessment. I'm president, and I'm going to basically break the government down to just municipal communities. It's like, whoa. Let's at least abolish the IRS first.
You do that, and it starts the machine kind of starts to break down.
Yeah, let's not just
and that's not a pragmatic goal to do within one term anyway.
But still, that's at least more pragmatic than here is our post ANCAP revolution America. Whoa. Slow down.
I don't know. I really we have kind of both ends of the spectrum there. You have a pretty big radical, and then you have someone who's very milquetoast and establishment, and just not something that's really desired at all. And I really don't think that he would have a chance of winning with to be able to flip votes. I'm eager for other people to toss their hat into the ring.
Someone who's not as boring, I guess, as Johnson. As much as
it was never a dull moment with the Johnson campaign. That's for sure.
No. But I mean, I think overall, for I think someone brought this up. I don't know if it was you, Chris, or someone. Basically, there was a guy who was on Joe Rogan, talked about Johnson, how Johnson just wasn't kind of a strong enough candidate to really capture people's attention. So, so this guy did an amazing Gary Johnson impersonation, and he's just sitting there and he's like, here you had the first libertarian voice that really got out there. You had Ron Paul that was out there saying this is straight up wrong, or this is this. And he's actually calling out injustices that government does. He's throwing these things out there, and it's sticking to some people. It really, kind of brought us around. But then you have Gary Johnson over here, and he's just well, I just don't really think that is the most effective way to run things. And it's no.
I think, people should be able to do what they want as long as it doesn't hurt people.
And it's you had Ron Paul that was that, it's just I mean, they really made Ron Paul kind of out to be the old senile cuckoo guy that's just up there and what? But in reality, he actually threw things out. Well, this is just not right. This guy I heard basically said, imagine someone like Gary Johnson during the abolition, being an abolitionist. Well, I just think it's not the most effective way to pick cotton,
Jeez.
It's versus the actual real radical abolitionist. No, this is wrong because human slavery is immoral. Well, I just think there are better ways to not pay. Just he would just you know, he didn't capture. I mean, he was edgy enough that CNN did a little like mini town hall on him, but like he wasn't to the point like there has to be a little bit of that edginess. Like, hey, like this is a really like out there kind of guy, but he's not so crazy. We don't want to vote for him. Like, he's got a little bit like pragmatism, but then he's also got that radical side where like, hey, this stuff actually makes sense. He's making me think about stuff.
Yeah, I think Gary Johnson's problem, honestly, was that he never went into detail on anything.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he started to give any type of a plan for anything, he would say, well, I don't want to get into the weeds on this. Like, the only weeds are the ones you're smoking, dude.
But he apparently abstained from smoking during the entire campaign. Yeah.
During the campaign. Like,
but who's to say he wasn't?
But when he endorsed Larry Sharpe, he definitely was not sober. You guys have to watch that video. Larry Sharpe's running for the governor of New York, yeah. And Gary Johnson endorsed him, and it's like the most cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I did, however, I've heard some people say they liked him. They thought Gary Johnson was somewhat of he's probably a pretty decent guy. They said there was some panel where he was talking to this guy, basically started spouting off some like marijuana causes heart attacks.
Oh yeah, I
just and falls over on stage.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I mean, he didn't smoke any during the campaign, but what if he had edibles?
Did you see the interview he did where he stuck out his tongue?
Yes.
So weird. Yeah.
I understand the point he was trying to get across, but the way he went about it was so wrong. But
yeah.
Anyway, back to my original question though, is that we've thrown out some ideas who might be running in 2020, but do you think that anyone honestly has a chance against Trump in 2020 at this point?
No.
From what I can see, probably not. But the thing is, it's like we mentioned before. If like what happens, like what you described, where there's like a downward spiral and like Trump just looks really, really bad in the eyes of the public, then maybe. But it all depends on how the media spins it. But as I see it right now, just based on like the knowledge that people have of like the contenders and everything else, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So as opposed to
spinning so many things already, and it just doesn't seem to work.
Yeah.
I mean,
so as opposed to the peak oil theory, we're going to have a peak Trump theory.
See, I honestly, I think he's going to peak this year, and I think he's going to start to decline. Like for instance, North Korea. I think you have to give credit to the peace that is going to eventually come from North Korea more to the president of South Korea, what's his name, Moon, and President Xi of China. Those two have had a lot more interaction with Kim Jong-un than Trump has, and I don't think his Rocket Man rhetoric had the impact that he's getting credit for, because the president of China met with Kim. The president of South Korea met with Kim. Trump still has not met with him face to face. And I think that these other leaders have put more pressure on and had more influence on North Korea than Trump did. And when Trump pulled out of that meeting, that was pure Trump ego.
I mean, there might be some genuine concern, though, I think, with international security. Two large masses approaching each other like that could cause a black hole.
No, man, it's called the art of the deal. Sorry, I just. Yeah.
You mean the church Bible?
Yeah.
By the way, did you hear Kim Jong-un wants to bring McDonald's to North Korea?
I heard about that. Not too excited.
Was that real? I thought that was a joke.
No, that's real.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
I mean, that's one step towards solving their starvation problem.
Hunger problem.
just watch like a McDouble is gonna be like $20 there. So like literally only like Kim Jong-un can eat them.
And the annual wage is $1.
Honey, I'm home. We're now 1/20th away from saving up to eat our McDoubles. It's so terrible.
But I guess did you guys have any other thoughts on Trump sort of commenting on the? I know we're kind of bring it back a bit, commenting on the NFL thing. Like, should he continue? Should he dial it back, or should he just stop talking about it? Period.
He's making it all about himself, and I mean, he's making this about himself. He made the Roseanne tweet about himself.
He made Memorial Day about himself.
He made Memorial Day about himself. He makes everything about himself. And I mean, maybe it's just me, but have you guys noticed that this ego thing has gotten worse over the past like couple months? I don't know if that's just me or if it really is getting worse. I mean, it seems like he's more about himself now than he was when he first got in office.
Right. I mean, how much more power can you get than being a billionaire? Be the leader of the free world.
Well, I mean, how much power is enough power, though?
No, I know, but I mean, once you've been on this power trip, of being a billionaire for so long, women lining up to want to meet you, and all the money you're making, and then you've taken sort of the final step towards power, I guess it's settling in at some point where maybe his power trip is feeding his ego. He probably realizes that he can't sign certain things into law. He can't keep signing executive orders, making Congress do what he wants. So he's trying to do what he knows to do, which is talk and tweet. Not to validate it, but that's just what is.
I think what you're just getting down to is that like power corrupts.
Power definitely corrupts, but I think in his case, power is just inflating his ego further.
Well,
because if he was absolutely corrupt, he'd be signing a whole bunch of executive orders and stuff in the place. Like more.
But he is though.
I haven't heard about any major ones recently.
Well, not recently, but he definitely has signed a lot of executive orders.
I think it's like over 200.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
Wow.
I think the next step is for him to claim the moon as U.S. property, and he's going to build Trump Tower Lunar.
It's going to be huge. We're going to build a wall around the moon, okay? We keep the communists out for good.
I mean, if
Kennedy was so sad, low energy, he didn't have the strength to go to the moon and build a wall. I do.
So what you're saying is,
and if we find people on the moon, some of them good, but most of them bad.
They're bringing rocks. They're bringing
dust.
They're bringing dust. They're bringing solar radiation. Some of them beneficial to my skin.
But we don't want the ones from the dark side.
No, that's where Hitler retreated after World War II. He had a space program and went to the dark side of the moon, and that's where all the Nazis are now. So, like, it's basically Trump's.
The Transformers are there.
What?
The Transformers are there.
Wait, the Transformers are Nazis?
Your mom lived there.
Cancel the movie series.
We're gonna combine like Iron Sky, Dead Snow, and freaking Transformers into like the worst movie of all time. Michael Bay. Someone get Michael Bay on the phone. And along with M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
The ultimate scene in the movie is the moon exploding.
Yeah.
The moon exploding and then being like, but is it though? Because M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
Well, you get M. Night Shyamalan to make it so you know the ending before it ends.
I mean, you're gonna have to have Bruce Willis in it, but the whole time Bruce Willis was in a dream.
and then he wakes up, and because Samuel L. Jackson hit him in the face, and then it's gonna be like during World War II, and it's directed by Quentin Tarantino. Done. Quentin Tarantino plays Donald Trump in the movie. Like,
there's just, of course, it's always a cameo.
I'm tired of these freaking these MF and SJWs on my MF and Twitter feed. Sorry.
M. Night Shyamalan makes his typical his appearance, his cameo appearance as I don't know, because he's always. It's funny. These are all people that we've.
M. Night Shyamalan played Dinesh D'Souza.
Oh my god!
Oh jeez,
that's awful and amazing, and it needs to happen.
No. M. Night Shyamalan has to wear a fat suit to be Cenk Uygur.
Oh my gosh. No.
Did you see? I did send you that video. There's a video, Curb Your Enthusiasm thing, but it was Cenk Uygur was like, "Oh, Republicans are just crazy. Terrorists are everywhere. You guys are just fear mongering." And then it cuts to a shot of him following the Parkland shooting. There are mass shooters everywhere. They are here, and it's like,
yeah.
But I guess I don't know. Let's see.
We're all over the place.
We are all over the place. I mean,
thanks to me. You're welcome.
Thanks to you. I mean, it's all your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Any other, I guess, relevant,
distracting.
Any current events, I guess, that you guys want to talk about quick, or because we're hitting at about an hour and a half right now, but we could probably fill in just a little bit more. Because I know there was a couple other topics Tim was bringing up. What were they here? Let's see.
All right, we hit everything.
We did that one. We did. Oh, Team Fag.
Oh yes.
What is this? I don't think I know about this.
There is a Republican candidate. There's a Republican candidate. I can't remember what kind of office he's running for.
Republican Senate candidate supports the death penalty for illegal aliens who commit murders. Judge Russ Fag with 2 G's.
Oh
yes.
I thought this was like some gay thing.
No, his last name is Fag, and he's a Republican. The irony is so rich; it's giving me diabetes. I mean, it's just amazing.
Here we go. Judge Russ Fag.
Montana,
yep.
Oh, hey, that reminds me of a joke.
Oh boy, here we go.
What do you feed gay horses?
Oh, hey.
Montana hasn't executed anyone in more than a decade, and it's unlikely to carry out a death sentence anytime soon. But you wouldn't know that from watching the state's U.S. Senate race. In a hotly contested primary to take on incumbent Democrat Senator John Tester, one Republican candidate, former Judge Russ Fag, has decided to make capital punishment a cornerstone of his campaign. Wow. Talk about doubling down.
I want to kill people.
I want to kill illegals.
Oh my god.
Who commit murders. But I mean, let's see.
That's the qualifier there.
Supports to the death penalty for illegal aliens who commit murders. But okay, so it's just illegal aliens that commit murders, not. Like,
but here's what's funny. It says so. It's
not normal,
saying
like
here,
not citizens. Like
Rosendale. I guess Rosendale was someone who. Oh, here we go. The presumed GOP frontrunner Rosendale, Matt Rosendale. He actually, in 2013, Rosendale, who is Catholic, co-authored the op-ed calling to end Montana's death penalty back in 2013. Those who support the death penalty usually use the same tired arguments. It saves money. It deters crime. Everyone who gets a death penalty is guilty and deserves to die, he wrote. We're here to say those arguments are wrong, and wrong. States without the death penalty have lower murder rates than states that do carry out executions. And a number of former death row inmates have been exonerated.
Well, how do you make the correlation between having the death penalty and a lower murder rate?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't know. You'd have to like trying to find some connection to say that.
No, that is Mother Jones news. So, yeah.
But I mean, you could make some really crazy connection and say that, people who want to go on death, like maybe death row has some sort of a status to it. Like if I'm going to kill someone, I'm going to go out on a, like it's going to take the state to kill me. Whereas if there's no death penalty, it's like I'm going to be in jail for the rest of my life.
So like a status of infamy almost.
Right. Sort of like the mass shooter thing. I'm going to be on the news. Everyone's going to know who I am because, like, it's such a crazy thing that I'm going to be on the news. And then in this case, it's
I'm only going to kill someone if the state kills me.
Right. It's like it's going to take. It literally is going to take the state to kill me, like some sort of weird fantasy.
That makes
probably.
No sense.
Well, to us maybe, but
because we're actually thinking.
Yeah.
Or psychopaths.
I guess maybe even like some subconscious motive, like how movies portray death penalties as some like you have this, you're such a bad person that we literally have to end your existence to stop you. It's like I am so bad and so whatever. Like if
you're so bad.
If mass shooters were given
you're a bad boy.
Exactly.
It's bad and sad.
But yeah, I mean,
if bad boy,
if they are, if they made like mass shooters, if they somehow legally defined like us, like a mass shooter, and gave them the death penalty, you never know. There could be more of them.
Don't you have to be in a Catholic church to be a mass shooter?
Oh my gosh.
Zing!
Worst pun ever.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what the communion cups are called? Mass shooters? Sorry.
Oh my god.
I'm so sorry.
Like, I was yesterday, and they held communion. I've never seen this before, but they offered a gluten-free option.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
I have never seen that before. I was amazed by it.
Gluten-free body of Christ.
What was it? Like a leaf?
No, it's like the wafers.
Like a gluten.
Yeah, it's like wafer? A little. It looked almost like a crouton. It was.
Well, like Catholics, Lutherans, and Episcopalians, like some denominations use the actual like communion wafer things instead of like breaking up pieces of bread or something, because and those are gluten free, like naturally, from what I understand. So, yeah,
I didn't know that.
We didn't want the body of Christ to give you a tummy ache.
Well,
I mean, no. If Catholics are doing this, What's the what's the doctrine they believe that were the blood and the body?
Transfiguration.
Transfiguration.
Yep.
Why does it matter then?
What does what matter?
If they believe in transfiguration, there wouldn't be gluten. It would be literal flesh.
BTFO Catholics. I can hear it from all the way from the Vatican. Yeah.
Well, that'd be like that meme with the guy that pushes the two buttons. Offers gluten-free option to be inclusive to all the congregation. Transfiguration
is a thing.
Transfiguration makes the way for gluten-free.
Gosh.
Anyways,
you're intolerant, man.
So yeah, what was it? So did they oh, here we go. This is another thing too that I've noticed, which is probably, I think it's really going to hurt the Republicans with the midterms, is this overwhelming, like, so a lot of the policies they're sort of pushing for with their campaign materials, like yard signs and ads. The Republicans are really trying to push the whole Trump thing. So like they're like, you know, what is my policy? And it's just Trump.
It's based on something Trump has said.
It's like build the wall, you know, some sort of animosity, some sort of policy that shows animosity toward illegal immigrants. Just very like trying to follow the template. Like they basically, you know, and I really follow the president with his shuffle, 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 pull out a card. Immigration policy.
What would Trump do?
Exactly, WWTD.
Which is kind of sad because you you even see these from like county and like count like for people from like county positions, and it's like, well, okay, but what are you gonna do about like this actual county issue that we want to vote for you for? Like, what's the platform that idea, because you're running for this position, you're not running for president. So
you could, like, for example, I know like certain county issues are like sewer or water problems.
Yeah.
But now would you adopt the Trump policy? Because as far as I know, there is no policy on Flint, Michigan.
Ooh, spicy.
So how would you play that then?
You take care of your own sewers. You have to build them yourself.
Exactly. But yeah, there's this that might be a big thing, because here we are talking about the left doubling down on identity politics. But now, I mean, on one hand, you have the Trump hysteria, but you have sort of the Trump hype train.
Yeah,
on the other side.
Trump has said he wants to spend $1 billion on infrastructure. No, I'm sorry, $1 trillion on infrastructure. So
it's like spend $1 trillion on infrastructure. What does that mean? Are you going to build?
Well, it means that the federal government has more control over issues that are supposed to be left up to
right. Are you going to build $1 trillion bridge?
Because that's definitely possible to do. Like,
yeah, you build a bridge from Russia to Alaska.
And where's that money coming from?
Well, it's stolen.
We're gonna make Russia pay for it.
We're gonna make Russia pay for it.
We're gonna build a bridge to Russia and make Russia pay for it. We're gonna build a wall around Mexico and make Mexico pay for it.
And it's gonna be luxurious.
It's gonna be big, grand, better than that one in China.
Yeah, I remember when he said the wall it was going to be luxurious.
It's going to be the greatest wall ever.
If remember, we always heard about the joke about him building a wall around the Earth to keep the aliens out. Isn't that similar to like a Dyson sphere?
You would have to include the sun.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be something like a ring around it, and then you could put solar panels on it. Like, I'd like to see some Republican actually go into that and be like, what if we built a wall and put solar panels on it? Have it pay for itself.
Well, they've already proposed that for the border wall.
Yeah.
The thing is that's an inefficient use of solar panels, though, because if you build them on on an actual wall, they won't be facing in directly to the sun for most of the day.
The wall just got
100
feet taller, and you put little pivoting things on the top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you put barbed wire around it, and then at the very top you have these, like, they tilt with the sun. So you have these big motors in it.
We're gonna
just
build
in the middle of the day, you hear the wall crank, like, rev up.
People in Texas be like, "Yep, that's that wall done firing up again. The cows really hate it." Like,
there's like, so there's Mexicans like trying to crawl over, but they actually have to go onto the panel. The panel starts moving.
They're like sliding off, like, no, I made it so far.
Sliding back to Mexico.
People just throw rocks at them and break them.
Possible. No. See, you gotta subsidize it further and have Elon Musk build the solar panels. Because how could he do that? Hit, like, again, the same meme. He's got like make money off of solar panels, but it's the border wall.
I actually like his idea of putting roof tiles as solar panels.
Okay.
Oh, it's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
It's an idea that also doesn't work. Because that idea in concept is good, but the whole thing that he advertised about, it's snake oil. That he advertised like it's going to be the same cost as like re-roofing your house. It's not. No, it barely produces any energy. And the thing is, like, it doesn't even matter because unless you're off the grid, like off the power grid, if you make more energy than you use, then you sell it back to the power company at like 10 cents on the dollar. It's like literally like 10% of what you would pay for it. So it doesn't make money, like, period. And it costs a lot of money.
Oh god.
It's freaking snake oil. And yeah.
Really, Mike? Mike just put up a tweet. He put up a poll. Who should direct the Donald Trump Transformers Nazi movie? M. Night Shyamalan, Michael Bay, Quentin Tarantino, or Donald Trump?
Of course, Trump directed.
I am retweeting this.
I mentioned you. Sorry.
No, I know. It's freaking. That's perfect. Any other? We didn't really bring up any other things. So.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we hashed everything out.
Pretty much, even though we jumped around a little bit. Maybe next week we'll have the script written out for the Nazi Transformers movie. So
yeah, it started on the screen.
Just the simple outline. Huge.
Donald Trump's very, very luxurious, super huge, better than any superhero movie. Transformer Nazi space movie sponsored by Elon Musk. That's what that title is. Executive producer Elon Musk. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I think we had a couple viewers here and there, but definitely going to relay this over to Josh. He'll probably retweet it and we'll get some views on it. But so far, the thing is for us is Josh said I could pretty much, well, we can do whatever. It's just I wanted to at least run it by him. Like, he wanted to do his streams, but I was like, everyone kept throwing out topics, and I'm like, well, let's do streams. So thanks everyone for joining who watched. I'll definitely put the links for Josh's channel as well as mine here. So Yeah. Everyone's Twitter is on. Well, I'll put everyone's Twitter in there too. Follow everyone. Everyone here's got lots of good stuff besides shit posting and memeing. So, like we've been doing. So, yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone.